Hello, MLB DW Warehouse Podcast, first one of 2026, for me at least. The prospect previews have wrapped up, so if you're listening to everything on the feed, you got that the other day. But it's a new year, and I'm in a new room. I've got a clean white wall behind me now as the background, which is better for this kind of stuff. I always had those annoying lights and stuff above me, but most people probably don't really watch. So I just moved the desk over into the other room, into the base, and I'm still in the basement, but I'm in a guest bedroom down here with a window. So I got a window now, which could be potentially a difference maker. You need some sunlight. Not much sunlight in January in northern Indiana, but we're getting through. It's January 6th already, and I am looking a bit disheveled. I don't know these people that actually. I mean, I look pretty normal, but I'm starting to get really opposed to any kind of hair that's not. I never cared about this before, but now, and not even just for podcasting, like whatever, I don't care. But I don't want to go out in public with like a beard hair, like all kind of, I don't really grow a full beard. Maybe I just never waited long enough, but it gets pretty ugly. So I just like to keep it all clean. Again, I kind of wish we could all go back to a world where you're expected to look very nice all the time instead of just like looking like you haven't taken care of yourself in weeks. It seems like, I mean, I don't know. You look at some of the other people doing stuff on the internet, guys particularly. I'm not really going to comment on female looks. I know better than that, but I mean, just like gross beard hairs and wild long hair. Long hair is fine if you take care of it, but I don't know. I would like to, and I've said this before, and I haven't changed anything. Like I'm still just wearing a sweater. At least it's clean. But someday I'd like to get back to like me always dressing really nice and always being really groomed and stuff. But at this point, there's not a lot of incentive for me to do that since I spend 90% of my time in my own house with my kids and wife. Stay in shape enough for that. I stay in shape enough for the purposes of keeping up with my kids. I don't want to be a dad that can't play sports with his boys when they're in their teens or whatever. So that's kind of the goal there, just be able to keep up with the boys. And then over the next 15 years, as I get into my 50s, 40s, whatever, I got a long way to go. But then also you want to, keep it together for your wife's. You don't want to let go of yourself. So, but other than that, I don't have I'm not going to big high profile in-person meetings where I got to look the best, but I would kind of, I could get back into that. Just at least pretend I should anyway, but that's rambling. So it's 2026. It kind of just feels like in January after that hits, I mean, the NFL, the fantasy football seasons are over. There's a whole playoffs to go, and that's a lot of fun, but it really just feels like a lot of people kind of flip the switch to fantasy baseball after Christmas, and I see the subscriptions come back up. We're 3 years into this. I can really start seeing the growth and shrinkage rates, like the curve, So that's always been interesting to see, and it's more defined. I mean, people are very predictable. It's all pretty predictable. I can kind of tell you, I can tell myself what the subscription growth is going to be, when will it come down, how far will it come down, and then when will it start to turn around, and how high will it go. So that's fun. And January, February, more so February, March, I guess, are the big months for fantasy baseball stuff. But if we're going to do all this stuff, 30 team previews, 30 prospect previews, projections, position previews, like you can't do all that just by starting in February. So we've been going for a long time. But I did miss 2 team preview podcasts over the break. I had written the Rangers and Giants, so I published them. Those are out to read, but I didn't have a podcast. So I'd like to just go through quickly on some of the highlights from those, just so for the free people can get a feel for Rangers and Giants and Royals, but the entire goods, all the really good information, the full write-ups for all the fantasy relevant players are in the paid subscription. A very strong, we got tools, we got projections. My 2026 projections are out. They've even gotten better in the last couple of weeks. I continue to rerun them and get better updated playing time stuff, but obviously a long way to go. But my projections, I'm not saying my season long projections are worth the $12 a month, because I don't claim that they're any better than the Bat or ATC, and those are free. So I'm not going to try to legitimately sell something that I know is worse. I don't think it's worse, but I know it's no better than the stuff that's out there for free. But it's just another thing you get, and it's always it's really interesting to me at least to compare. As we see on the screen here, there's an updated tool here where you can go compare a player on the web app, MLBDataWarehouse.streamlit.app. The password's in the resource glossary at MLBDataWarehouse.com. But if you're looking at the screen, you can see I've got Aaron Judge pulled up in this tool, and it'll just show you MLB DW, Steamer, and the bat projections all side by side. Really easy to compare and see how that stuff's going. So we'll use that as we go forward. The Bat X just came out like a week ago, so we haven't had those. But let's recap quickly the Rangers preview. Semien and Garcia are gone. So different looking roster. If we look at the roster resource page, always good to kind of just set your bearings there. It's Nemo, Langford, Seager, Peterson, Berger, Carter, Jung, Smith, Jansen. So a different looking lineup, kind of the same in the middle, but it's pretty weak after the top three, and then that's assuming Seager's even in the lineup with all the injury troubles he's had. It's looking rough. I mean, he's going to be 32, and just a long list of injury stuff. So there's a high level perspective. I don't think the Rangers are going to be a great lineup as things are constructed right now, and I don't think they haven't really been in on the big free agents and stuff. I think they're kind of in not the best financial place right now to go spend. Like, they're not the Mets in on every free agent or the Blue Jays or whatever. So probably a below average lineup. I mean, it's not horrible. Nemo, Langford, Seager's a solid top three. Langford and Seager, obviously, potentially two of the better hitters in the league. I'd say both of those guys. Seager's a top dozen or so raw hitter in the league when he's healthy, and Langford has some upside to get into that conversation. Maybe a little bit better. I don't know. You like him for fantasy because he can steal bases. That's not quite as important in real life, but he's a good player. I think he'll probably end up as a top 25 hitter before long. The rotation is top heavy, I guess. DeGrom and Eovaldi. You obviously have injury questions there with the 37 and 36-year-old guy at top of the rotation, and then later showed some upside. We'll talk about him. Then Rocker, Latz, Cody Bradford maybe returning from his Tommy John at some point. So not a great team. It doesn't look like a playoff team to me, but there's enough fantasy stuff going on to certainly talk about it. The park thing is the weirdest part. Remember, I remember in playing DFS, you really get into the park factors when you're a DFS bro. I remember back in 2017, 2018, 2019 playing DFS, and we're getting really into that. It was like in the summer, you would want to play hitters in Texas. And I think they've gotten a new stadium since then, but maybe not. Maybe that was longer ago than I remember, but I don't know. When was that? Like 2014, 15 or something like that? They got this new stadium, but it wasn't a hugely different stadium. And then just the temperatures, the humidity down there really made it a great hitter's park. But that has super strangely turned around in the last two seasons. I just looked at slugging percentage on balls in the air in Texas for Rangers home games. There's a whole table of data here on the screen, or if you just go to the Rangers preview, which is already published, it's even in the free part. You can see all this, but Texas Rangers 836 air slug. That's what we're calling it. So it's slugging percentage on balls hit in the air. 2021, 836, 2022, 856, 2023 ballooned to 922. So very, very high. And then 2024 came down to 748. 2025 came down to 697. Now, some of that has to do, some of that has to do with the home lineup, right? Like if you've got guys like Semien who are aging, just not hitting the ball as hard, and that kind of stuff will matter a bit because hitting the balls in the air, obviously. A ball in the air from Aaron Judge's bat is a lot different than one from Luis Ariz. So that balances in, and they haven't had the most strong lineup, you could say, but no, there's something going on here for sure. The home run per barrel rate has come down from 56% in 2023 down to 50% in 2024, and then down to 37% in 2025. The average barrel distance, of all the barrels, how far they've traveled, is down 10 feet from that 2023 heights, which is that's a ton, right? That's a huge gap. So I don't know, probably some humidor things going on. I looked at I looked quickly at the weather. I was like, have they had two really cold summers? And that hasn't been the case. It's been pretty much the same, if not even a little bit hotter. So, yeah, it was a pitcher's park, and that made a big difference. I mean, it helped the pitching. There just wasn't much offense there. Um, Now, since it turned so quickly from 2023 to 2024, doesn't that mean that it could reverse, right? Um, it could just snap back. So I don't know. It's hard to really build that into your expectations because you don't know if it'll continue. It's not about, obviously, this isn't about the park dimensions, and it's not about the climate, the weather. They're not in Cleveland playing, the first month and the last month in cold temperatures or something like that. It must just be about the baseballs, and that stuff can flip overnight. So I don't really want to depend on it. But I guess the proper guess would be that it'll be a pitcher friendly again, just because that's the last thing that happened. But Corey Seager's here, just no real reason. Let's just talk about a few guys from the Rangers since it's already been out. And the free podcast, I don't want to give too much away anyway. Corey Seager, really, the only question is health. It's been bad, obviously. Continues to have issues staying on the field. So you got to you're playing the risk game if you're taking him. You're going to take him as your first shortstop. He's going to go in the first 4 or 5 rounds. I mean, he's cheaper this year than before. He's actually can fall to past pick 100. Actually, his ADP is above 100. So maybe you're in 7th, 8th round in some cases. And at that point, the risk is taken away. But drafting him as your primary shortstop, you just never know how much he's going to be on the field for. Wyatt Langford, we were big on him last year, and he didn't have a great season. He had 3 different oblique issues, I think. Limited to 134 games. So he played through it a lot. I think that there's definitely, he must have been playing slightly injured for at least a portion of that 134 games. But still, 22 homers, 22 steals. He hit 243, 26% K rate, 13% walk rate. Skills are just crazy. 107 EV90, 354 expected WOBA. But he's an awesome player. 2020, even in a year where things weren't going well for him, I think there's 30-30 upside. I mean, that's almost an expectation. The projection is not there. 26 homers, 17 steals for me on Langford, although maybe I should do an update on these because I did boost some playing time projections. So, now I've got Langford for 29 homers and 18 steals on a 260 batting average, 352 on base. I mean, fantasy stud, potentially, I guess. It's not for sure, but I've got him ranked very high. I'm pretty into him. And I would like to have some Langford on the squads this year. Let's go full screen here on the video. Brandon Nimmo is the 3rd best player hitter and arguably the last standard league guy. Nimmo really kind of added power a few years back, and that's kind of been his game. Lower batting averages, nothing fantastic in that regard at least, but plenty of homers. He's got 20 homer seasons over the last few. He's got 21 homer projection this year for me, 11 steals, 247 average, 414 slugs. So just a solid player, a little bit underrated probably just because he's never been exhilarating for fantasy purposes. He doesn't have 35 homers or 25 steal upside or a 290 batting average, but the bats at 252 average, a 759 OPS, solid player, should be able to play a bunch with Texas at the top of the lineup and probably end up with another 20 to 25 homer season with 8 to 12 steals and potentially a lot of counting stats as he takes over for Semien at the top of the lineup. The rest of the guys, Jake Berger, I mean, still has a lot of power, but just struggles. Plate discipline's bad, very streaky, not a lot of speed. 16 homers last year. He got demoted. Should be back in there for this year. And you have to say that there's 30 homer upside for him if he can stay healthy, stay in the lineup, stay in the majors. But really risky pick, low batting average probably. He hit 236 last year. You're kind of just hoping that he can bounce back up to, in 2024, he hit 247 with 29 homers. That's pretty great. The OBP has been under 300 the last 2 years, so not good in that situation. But that's kind of the story with Berger, just a later round power upside pick, but certainly a guy you might end up dropping. Evan Carter had a lot of hype after that World Series run, right? Remember Evan Carter didn't play much in the regular season back in 2023, but got on the playoff roster and had some big moments, hit a huge home run, I think. And was taking a lot of walks, getting on base a ton. But last year, injuries, 63 games in the majors, just a 728 OPS at 5 homers. Did drop the strikeouts a ton, down to 19%, but the walk rate came down. Pitchers weren't super worried about him, so they were throwing him a lot of strikes. Coming up, he would really take a lot of walks because he was super, super patient, and he could work a walk, but now pitchers aren't He'll see some more strikes. He's swinging a little bit more. The problem is he's not going to play against lefties. He's got a minus 13 weighted runs created plus against lefties. So he's a platoon guy with somewhat limited power. He's got a good ability to pull the ball in the air, but he doesn't still a pretty low swing rate. He's patient. And if he can keep the strikeout rate under 20% like he did last year, you could see 500 plate appearances, 15 home runs. Maybe that's the best case. Maybe that's a 90th percentile outcome or something like that. But you could get 15 and 15, but the batting average projection is really low on him. Let's check the 3 different projections for Evan Carter. I've got him 229 batting average. The bat has 241, 702 OPS. 11 homers for the bat, 13 for me, 16 steals from both of us. So you're looking at a guy that hurts you in batting average with limited playing time in the platoon, but homers and steals, double digits in both should get there. At least that's what's projected. So that's kind of the player he is. Josh Jung just doesn't have the power that I thought he did. I really did think that he would come back from the wrist stuff 2 years ago and have a nice season, but barrel rate was just 8.2%. Expected WOBA was bad at 300, so he struggled. And there's not much reason to be excited now. I don't know. I think he's the third baseman. I don't think there's much question about that, but he's not a great hitter. Projection 430 plate appearances. Well, I need to update all these. Let me pull them up over here. My projection's 530 plate appearances now, 17 homers, 253 batting average, 5 steals. The bat is about the same, 17.4 and 246 from the bat. So replaceable stuff. And that's the hitting. There's plenty of other guys, but we're just trying to focus on the guys you need to know for your standard leagues here. DeGrom, Eovaldi, again, we don't need to talk about DeGrom. If you think he'll stay healthy, then you draft him as an SP1. Eovaldi, 35, obviously had the 1.73 ERA, 0.85 whip last year. He was elite. He was like a league winner. A lot of the teams that won the NFBC contest, like most of them had Eovaldi. I don't know about most, but he was a huge key because he went super late and he had an awesome year. But he was hurt a lot, only 130 innings. He had elbow inflammation, back tightness, strained rotator cuff, and he ended the season on a 60-day IL. So he's cheap this year, again, because of that. And I don't know. I just don't really want to go. I don't want to buy high. I don't want to, on the kind of somewhat lucky ERA for a 36-year-old that finished the year hurt and had all those injuries, it seems really risky for me. So I don't think I'll touch him. Jack Leiter has the upside, big fastball, 97-mile-an-hour fastball. Pretty good pitch for him. Not great, not elite, but good enough to make you believe. He just needs the command. I mean, he's at high walk rates all the time, and the command has hurt him. Even when he's throwing strikes, the command hasn't been there to get a bunch of strikeouts. So, but we saw a lot of upside for him. 23% K rate. 10% walk rate. That's not good. A 3.86 ERA last year, but he threw 152 innings, which is nice. Just at the end of the year, we saw him. I got the fantasy point log shown on the page. 39 fantasy points, 23, 22, 7, 13, 7, 33. So 3 out of 6 really good starts, 2 elite starts at the end of the year. Did he figure something out, or was it just kind of variance? I don't know, but there's upside. I just don't think you want to be too excited about it. Maybe he's someone you take and see early on in the year if he's got command, but I think probably he's going to have too much of a walk issue. And it's not like this is a 30% K rate with just a walk issue. It's only a 23% K rate with an 11.6% swinging strike rate. So he's someone to draft in a deeper league, but I have trouble thinking that it's going to be great. And that'll do it for the Rangers that I want to talk about here. But there's way more detail, a lot better in written form for them. The next one we put out was the Giants. We went over the park stuff. Some of the guys. Where did I put it here? There have only been, since Barry Bonds, very, very few big power seasons coming from the Giants, just because this park is so pitcher friendly. So Rafael Devers ends up there, and Devers is going to be on my busts list, and I guess I won't be alone on that, but I don't know. He's never been a steals guy. The batting average is never, I guess he has been a good batting average guy, but last year he had 252, 35 homers, 479 slug, a very good year for him, but I just think he's well outside of the top tier at third base. He's at first base now. I think he's well outside of that first base tier just because this park is so rough. He played 163 games last year, which is a piece of trivia, right? But even then, he finished number 8 on the first base player rater with a 250 average, 35 homers, 99 runs, 109 RBIs. I mean, it's a good season, but this was a guy that would go in the first or second round a few years back. And it's just, the park shift is serious, man. I mean, going from Fenway to Oracle Park is brutal. So I don't really want him. I know he's a little bit cheaper. The ADP reflects some of that, but I just don't see much upside. He's not a steals guy, right? Like, he really needs all that. He needs those 30 plus homers and those 100 plus RBI to make value even kind of where he's at now in the fourth or fifth round. And I'm going to pass on that. I think the Giants are a fine lineup, but it's nothing that they're not going to lead the league in scoring. And this park, I think, is just going to be a big problem for him. Plus just some of the, I don't know. I guess you can't complain. He played every single game plus one last year, but a lot of this just like locker room stuff. I mean, he seems to have ruffled some feathers in Boston, at least. I don't know. Maybe he's fine in San Francisco now, but yeah, 29 years old, getting up there. That's not past the prime by any means, but all things considered, the projection is 26 homers, 80 RBIs. Like, I'm just not in on that for the cost. Willie Adames at one more thing. The thing about first base is that you can find those like 25 to 30 homer bats with a 250 average. Like, those are somewhat easy to find at first base. So if Devers doesn't really offer that much above replacement value. He does, but you know what I'm saying, relative to the cost and the name value and stuff. Willie Adames ended up with 30 homers last year, so he was one of the few Giants of the last couple decades to get to 30 homers. I wrote that somewhere, but yeah, here it is. He was the first one to do it since Barry Bonds, actually. I went back as far as 2010 looking for Giants that hit 100 or Giants that hit 30 home runs. He was the first one to do it. But, man, do you remember how bad he was at the beginning? Maybe it was just an adjustment period. I don't know. But in April, he hit 219. In May, he hit 206. In June, he hit 216. He had just 9 homers at the beginning of July. And then in July, he hit 337 with 7 bombs. In August, he hit 9 homers on a 190 batting average, which is weird. 207 batting average in September with 5 more bombs. So he hit 21 homers in the last 3 months to make up for some of those early season struggles, but the batting average was bad all year except in July. He was below 220 every single month except July, where he hit 337. So batting average is weird and finicky, and you should always look at the end of season thing rather than breaking it down by month. But if you've been playing this game for a few years, Willie Adames is not a batting average guy. He's had last 5 years, 262, 238, 219, 251, 225. So the right expectation is probably 245 to 250 for Willie Adames. And if we look at the projections, I'm at 241, the bat's at 234, and Steamer's at 233. So I think you're below. I think my projection is right. 26 homers, 12 steals, 240 batting average. Is that great? Is that a standard league player? Yes. Especially because he's in the lineup every day, 80 runs, 80 RBI projection. So we get there. It's just like, I don't know. It's nothing you want to go out of your way to get. He's a guy that you take at ADP if he's there. If you need a shortstop that can hit homers, but you don't reach up multiple rounds for any of these Giants guys, in my opinion. Matt Chapman came back down after the 2024 season where he hit 27 homers, went back down to kind of more of his expectation, 21 homers, 9 steals, 231 batting average. So it was his worst batting average in the last 3 years. It's just another guy, like, he's not a fantastic hitter, good hitter, great defender, great overall play, very good overall player, but the fantasy profile has just never been all that great. And the projection with another year of age and a bad park ends up somewhat poor. 22 homers, a 250 batting average, a 776 OPS, 11 steals. He's not really a threat to hit 30 home runs or steal 20 bags or hit 280. So, just a floor player, whatever. Same situation with Adames and Devers. Like, okay, if they fall to I don't really want Devers at ADP, but if they fall and they're there and you need someone at their position that you can count on for something, for at least being in the lineup and doing some decent stuff, not killing you anywhere, that's who Chapman is, but not a guy that you really want to go out of your way to get, I'd say. Let's see. Bryce Eldridge is an interesting name. I'm going to skip over a couple names that you can go read about if you become a paid subscriber. Eldridge is the big prospect, number 1 overall prospect for the Giants, I believe. Huge power, only 21 years old. Got to the majors late last season, 107 average, 179 slug, no homers, 35% K. So didn't go well for him, but it was like a couple weeks. 37 plate appearances. It was like 1 week, basically. What would that be about right? 36 divided by 4 is what, 9, right? 9. So a week and a half or something. We'll call it 2 weeks. 25% barrel rate though, so 50% fly ball rate. He was getting balls in the air. He was hitting the ball hard, just didn't find the fence at all. And yeah, the park's not great. And this is a guy that had a huge strikeout rates in the minors, 27% K rate in the minor leagues, 11% walk rate. So he was hitting a lot of bombs, but striking out a lot. Now he goes to this Oracle Park situation against the best pitching he's ever seen. What's the real upside there? I mean, Matt Wallner, is that the best case scenario for him? I don't know. Maybe he'll get in there against lefties. Maybe he won't be a platoon guy, but I think he's going to strike out a ton, and that's going to really limit him. The projection right now is 430 plate appearances, 15 homers, 4 steals, 227 batting average on a 30% K rate. That K rate might even be a little bit generous, but I'm the high man. So he's more of a long-term outlook player, is Eldridge, where you're hoping that he can adjust and get, after a couple of years, reduce the strikeout rate, figure things out, kind of become a more professional hitter, make those adjustments. But I don't think it's going to be great at the beginning of 2026. I think that you'll have a low batting average almost surely, and you'll probably have some really bad cold streaks. And again, just adding the park situation on top of that takes away some homers. So I'm not very into it for 2026, but dynasty, keeper leagues, whatever, probably still keep an eye on him. I mean, I'd probably be looking to move him. I just don't really like those types. It seems like these guys with 27, 28% K rates in the minors just very rarely figure out how to do anything more than like become a Matt Wallner, Jock Peterson type guy, where they're kind of stuck in a platoon and they're striking out a lot and batting average is always bad and they're not doing anything other than putting up decent home run rates. But if you're not playing 150 games, then you can't. How many home runs can you even hit? So pretty much off of that. We go to the pitching side. The Giants added Tyler Mahle to go with Logan Webb and Robbie Ray and Landon Roop. So those are kind of the 4 guys for fantasy purposes. I think they're all fine. Adrian Hauser as well, they signed. I'm not in love with any of them. I think Logan Webb is probably a little bit overpriced. I mean, I understand it that there are so few guys that are so reliable as Webb. I mean, it's got 810 innings thrown over the last 4 years. That's almost 50 more than anybody else. Framber Valdez is second with 767.2. So the innings is there, that volume, the wins, the strikeout volume, like even without the elite strikeout rate, he's been mostly at 22, 23%. It spiked last year to 26%. But even if he's at 21%, like the innings, he's throwing 200 innings and nobody else is doing that. So the raw strikeouts get there. But ERA has always been good. It's certainly not the way to get to an elite ERA is by having a bunch of strikeouts. So he's not going to be an elite ERA guy, but it'll be solid, especially for the volume and the whip. The whip is actually a bigger problem. Just it's hard to have a great whip without the strikeouts as well, just because you're giving up a lot of balls in play. Now, mostly on the ground, and that's good for run prevention, but it gives up hits. I mean, his whip values over the last 3 years, he's got one really good one in 2023 at 108, but 2024 123, 2025 124. It's good. I'm not saying anything overly bad about Logan Webb. I just don't think he's it depends on the league type too, right? Like if you're going to draft him as an SP1, you want to do that in a points league or in a league with raw strikeouts rather than a strikeout rate thing. And you just if you want to just build a solid deep rotation, like that's fine. He's not going to have the upside. The only way that he like stumbles into some Cy Young serious consideration would be with multiple injuries to other guys and just the volume. Maybe he gets very lucky and has a really low BABIP or something. Maybe 2022 he did put up a 2.9 ERA, but you're mostly expecting a 3.3, 3.4 ERA, a 1.22 WHIP with a 23% K rate or something like that. So solid enough. Depends on just a lot on the league. Robbie Ray comes back from Tommy John surgeries last year with 182 innings. Pretty impressive in and of itself to come back through that many innings as a 33-year-old coming back from TJ, but lost a lot, 25% K rate, actually a little bit less than that, 9.7% walk rate, a 1.1 home run per 9, a 3.65 ERA, a 1.21 WHIP. He's always had a limited arsenal. He's really been dependent on the slider and the fastball being very good, and they were still fine last year. 52% strike rate, 12.2% swinging strike rate on the four-seamer for Ray last year. Slider was good as well, 15.6% swinging strike rate, but neither of those are elite pitches for him. And with another year on top of them and with the home run issues and the command never being all that great, it was about league average ball rate last year for Ray, but a worse than league average 9.5% walk rate. So he had a 15% K to walk ratio, K minus walk, I should say. The park is good. It keeps the balls in the yard, 13% home run to fly ball rate for Robbie Ray last year, but I think he probably just gets a little bit worse every year. I think the upside is gone, and I don't really want a guy that I think will go for like a 24% K rate with a 9% walk rate that has a history of home runs. Now, the park is good for home runs, like I said, but projection's bad, a 4.2 ERA, a 1.31 whip. So he's not expensive by any means, but I'm not excited about it. Landon Roop, some guys are going to be back in on him. Last year, he was pretty poor, I'd say, a 12% K minus walk and 11% swing and strike rate, 3.94 JA ERA. Good news, 46% ground ball rate, but he's a sinker first guy. The strikeouts I don't think are going to be there. Maybe he can figure out a four-seamer or throw more cutters or something like that, because he does have a curveball that's 17% swing and strike rate. Good curveball, but hasn't really had a fastball to set it up. If he's going to come in with sinkers more, again, I should say. So last year with Rupa, it was a 40% sinker usage. You're just not going to have strikeouts like that. The pitch is bad. 45% strike rate, 3.9% swing and strike rate, 47% ground ball rate. So his plan was just keep the ball on the ground, try to be a little bit like Logan Webb, but he doesn't have the same command or the same quality of stuff. So, there's upside if he can figure out a four-seamer, but he didn't have one last year, only threw 17 of them. So you kind of need something to set up that curveball, and I don't really see it with Roop. Not excited there. Tyler Mahle, if he can, he was lucky last year. So he had some really nice numbers in the short time, and that got him, then he got hurt. So he only threw 87 innings, 2.18 ERA, 1.13 whip. Those are great ratios. Only a 19% K rate, though, and an 8% walk rate. So that stuff, the indicators weren't very good. It was a 3.9 JA ERA, a 4.28 JA SIERA. He's a fly ball pitcher, which is fine, if not preferable, in San Francisco, but very lucky last year, and now he's coming back from a lot of injuries. This guy's been hurt a lot in his career. He's 31. He got a 1-year deal, so the Giants aren't overly convinced by it. Now, it's about the best landing spot for him, I'd say, but I just have some questions. He's going to go around the top 350 now, which is a standard league guy, and I don't know. I don't see it. I don't really see more than 120 innings. I guess that's not right to say. If he stays healthy, he'll do that. They only have a 1-year deal. They're not going to baby him. He's a 30-year-old guy, but he's had so many injuries, so much trouble staying healthy, and I think people are going to pay the cost based on those elite ratios last year, and that's just not going to hang around. So I'd probably rather be out on Mahle, but you could do a lot worse around pick 330, I suppose. He's a somewhat safe option as a guy who knows how to pitch, at least. Adrian Hauser, another kind of career resurgence last year at age 32 with the White Sox, 3.31 ERA, 1.28 whip, fine ratios, nothing great, nothing horrible though, but only an 18% K rate. I kept the ball in the yard, and that's good. They'll probably continue to do that in San Francisco. I feel like I'm repeating myself on that point, but Hauser and Mahle, Hauser's worse, but you could get 150, 160 innings out of him in a somewhat non-awful ERA, 49% ground ball rate for him last year. So does not get whiffs, does not get strikeouts, but somehow keeps the ball in the yard and generates soft contact. I don't know how he did it last year. I don't know. You really don't want to be counting on that, but that's what he did last year. So that's Hauser. It's a pretty good, pretty solid rotation. I think the Giants are going to have a good team ERA. They seem to build around the park, which is good for them, but I can't say I'm like jumping out of my boots to get any of them for fantasy. I'll be fine with Logan Webb if that's how the draft goes, and even Robbie Ray, I could see myself if he falls quite a bit. And same with Mahle. Like, none of these guys are the green types where I'm reaching for them. I'm putting them in my queue at the beginning. Like, I'm looking to get them, but pretty much all of them I'd be fine if they fall a little bit past ADP where I just need some safety. Let's get to the Royals now. This will be the podcast on the article, the Royals article. So, but we're going to just kind of keep it going, try to keep it going pretty quickly through here. Bobby Witt. Is there a reason for me to spend time on Bobby Witt? I don't know. He's like clearly the number 3 player this year. He's number 2 or 3 or 4 in dynasty leagues. Like, I guess the only thing you can say about him is that the OBP isn't elite. He doesn't walk a ton. He's pretty aggressive, but one of the best for batting average steals with not a ton of homers. I mean, his career high is 32 now, and it's another park where that's just not great for home run hitting. But I think at some point, Bobby Witt is 25 years old. At some point, he'll have another 32. I don't think 32 will be his career best in home runs, right? Just such a good player. Interesting, last year he didn't hit a home run against lefties, or he only hit one, sorry. But splits aren't a problem. 489 slug against lefties, 504 slugging against righties, so it was fine. I don't know, in a points league or an OBP league, do you take Soto over him at 3? I could certainly see that. But standard roto where OBP, where walks don't matter, where you don't get points for the walks, or if there's not a category dedicated to it, then Witt's clearly my number 3. I take him over Soto every time. Michael Garcia, big extension this year. The question with him is that, where did these 16 homers come from, and will they repeat? I talked about him with Kurland on an episode a few weeks back. You could go listen to that. But the career, so we got the 5-year extension. He's going to be a key part of the Royals' future. 123 games in 2023, he hit 4 homers. 157 games in 2024, he hit 7 homers. Last year, he lifts the ball a little bit more and uses that bat speed he has, or at least the exit velocity he has. Plays 160 games, hits 16 homers. So in the past, he's been a guy you want for steals. He's kind of been a third baseman at kind of a weak position that can steal bases. He's got 23, 37, and 23 steals in the last 3 years. He hit 272 in 2023. He hit 287 last year. So he's like a steals and batting average guy. But for him to be worth the cost this year after that year, you kind of want another 12 homers or so. Now, my model thinks he can do it. I got him for 15 homers. Steamer and the bat are both at 13. Batting average differences, I got him for 262, Steamer at 275, and we all agree between 25 and 30 steals. So it's another situation where I don't want to – I'm a little bit hesitant to take him at the ADP, but I think he's perfectly fine. If he falls a little bit or whatever, if I need a third baseman, he's kind of near the end of a cliff per se there. There's not a ton to like at third base after the first couple tiers, so that's fine, but it just feels like you're buying a little bit high. He could regress in batting average for sure, as we saw in 2024. He could hit single-digit home runs again. I don't think he will. I think you're looking at another repeat of 12, 13, 14 homers, and maybe there's growth for more. I mean, he's only 26. Maybe he'll take another step forward like he did last year, so maybe there is upside. Maybe he can hit 290. He can hit 22 homers and steal 35 bags or something like that. Like, all that could happen. But I don't know. I never like, as a general rule, to buy into a right after a big career year. And in Garcia's case, it was like a massive career year. Big difference upwards. So Pasquantino, whatever. Another guy you're kind of buying high on, 32 homers last year for Vinny P. After a season of – he hadn't played a full season prior to that, but he was like a 23 homer pace guy before that. So he added on to that. Slugged 473. Very good hitter. I mean, one of the best at limiting strikeouts and making the right decisions at what he's swinging at and hitting the ball hard, but hasn't lifted the ball at the proper, like at the ideal angles for home runs. That's not to say that he should be trying to do that. There's more to being a hitter than just hitting home runs, but I think that you're at like a 25 homer expectation. I don't know if you'll see him hit 30 again. All the projections are at 23 or 24. My model's at 614 plate appearances, so pretty much a full season, 24 homers, 265 batting average. Again, fine. Like this would be a yellow situation where if he's there at ADP or a little bit below and I need a first baseman, I'm okay with it, but it feels like a little bit like a buy high. I would not be thinking he's a 30 homer guy. Just hasn't been that way. And again, it's another park where it's really hard to hit a ton of home runs, as we've explored in this written piece. Salvador Perez, my only hesitation with him, well, a couple hesitations, but the one is the age, but we say that every year and it doesn't matter. But 35 now, I mean, he's my age. This dude was born in the greatest year, 1990, probably, I guess. But how long can he play all these games? Played 158 games in 2024. He played 155 last year. He gets there because he DHs, plays some first base in addition to his catching roles. But Carter Jensen's here now, Jack Caglione, some other guys, just a lot of young guys coming up for them that can maybe fill in at first or at DH. So maybe Perez just gets some more off days. Carter Jensen's a catcher, right? So Perez might not even be the primary catcher at some point in the year. And I guess that'd be good for him. I don't think they're going to bench him. He's not going to lose his job. But the question is just like, okay, maybe he gets a little bit banged up. Maybe they want to give him some rest. Maybe they were looking like a playoff team and they want to save him for the playoffs. And maybe he just goes down to 135 games or something like that, like a normal catcher does. not saying that's the projection. That's not the most likely thing to happen, I guess, but it's more possible this year than before. But the good news is that the metrics were, it didn't look like he had any signs of aging last year. 107 EV90 was his best of the last 4 years. 15% barrel rate, almost 23% air pull, just still aggressive, but 286 expected batting average, 365 expected WOBA. So he was pretty unlucky with the batting average. So I think you're fine to take Perez maybe one more time as a catcher, but every year you just get a little bit more downside with him. So I've never been a big it just seems like there's so much risk on him. It hasn't ever been realized, but I don't know. I haven't liked him before, and it's hard to like him this year since I haven't liked him before. Things look a little bit worse this year. Just a little bit, though. Not a big deal. Carter Jensen, I don't know. He played a little bit in the majors, and he was great. He had a 108.1 EV90 in a very short major league sample size on 112.7 max EV, 46% ground ball rate, 23% air pull. So Carter Jensen was really good in 70 plate appearances in the major leagues. Is that lucky? Will he repeat that kind of stuff over a full season? I really doubt it. I think pitchers will adjust. I think he'll have some struggles, but this is a high upside catching prospect. He could be one of the better hitting catchers in the league if you really look into the minor league stuff. Very talented guy. And he hit the ground running last year, so it's not crazy to think he could have a pretty nice year for them. Will he start in the major leagues? We don't know. There's not a wide open thing at catcher. Like Perez still plays catcher for them, so they don't have an open job for him. He would have to be in there probably. If he makes the team, you'd think that he would DH and split catching duties, maybe catch 2 or 3 games a week and DH, but I don't think he's an everyday player right out of the gate, at least. And it's possible maybe a bad spring. Maybe he starts in AAA again. So the playing time projection is a little bit tough. These guys are always hard to project. I've got him. So the bat's at 372 plate appearances, 11 homers, 239 average, 404 slugging, 723 OPS. Steamer's more into him than that. Carter Jensen with a 742 OPS projection. Steamer. I penalize young players pretty rough, but I do have him for a 21% K rate, which is really nice for a guy with this much power. So big upside, but overall you got to temper the expectations. I wouldn't be drafting this guy as your starting catcher in a standard league just because the playing time and the adjustment questions. Like I think in 2 years' time, he's probably easily a top 10 catcher in fantasy, but we'll see. I'm just always very hesitant to do it in their first real long stint at Major League pitching. Major League pitching is just so good. So Caglione, you've seen me talk about him plenty. I had a tweet about him the other day. Was really unlucky last year. The advanced stats were good. 12% barrel rate, 328 expected WOBA, 249 expected batting average, 84.7% zone contact rate. Hits the ball really hard, but he had a 172 BABIP. He had a 148 batting average. Actually, that's not right. What was it? That was 148 against righties, 180 against lefties. The expectations were a lot higher, but he didn't get to optimal launch angles and stuff. So he's got some work to do. Good news is, I'm buying. I really want him this year. Under 25% K rate. You usually don't see that from rookies with power, and he has that. So just a slight tweak, an adjustment to get the ball in the air at the right angles more. I think he kind of can blow up. Hits the ball super, super hard. So again, probably not 30 homer, probably not 30, maybe 30, but probably not 40 homers in Kauffman Stadium, but he does have that kind of power. He hits the ball extremely hard. So the projection is 430 plate appearances, 20 homers, 4 steals, 243 average, 459 slugs. So pretty good for my system. You have some, I don't know. I don't see any, like the projection is that he is not a full-time player, but the Royals have to be, that's got to be crazy, right? His natural position is first base, and they have Pasquantino and Perez. So that's probably where the projection of losing playing time comes from. They put him in the outfield last year, and I don't think it went super well, but that's probably where he starts. So I guess it's possible that he's so bad in right field that they give him some time off. They don't start him all the time. Maybe a fly ball pitcher's on the hill for them or something like that. They sit him at the beginning and kind of sub him in the middle of the game just to save some defensive stuff. But I don't know. I think he'll be able to figure how hard can it be, right, to play right field in major leagues? I don't know. Probably pretty hard, but that's the kind of what you're up against with him, and that's why you'll see the projections being a little bit low on his playing time. That's going to do it for Royals hitters. They have two. They got Raggins, another case of just needs to stay healthy, and he's a SP1 clearly. I think he's one of a handful of guys in the American League that could win a Cy Young. Crochet, Skubal, Ragans. I think in the American League, those are the best 3 pitchers. And last year he was number 4 by JA ERA. He was just fantastic last year. He had a bloated ERA due to some bad luck, but per pitch, like all the advanced numbers, he's one of the best in the league. So can he stay healthy? Can he throw 170 innings to really get this SP1 price tag paid off? There's some fair questions about that, but I don't have any questions about the performance. He's just absolutely nasty. Chris Bubich got hurt in July and ended the year very early. It was another injury to add on to his long list, so you got questions about that. It was pretty good, though, while he was healthy. 24.4% K rate, 8.2% walk rate, 0.46 home run per 9. He probably, I don't know. The underlying stuff isn't, well, it's pretty good, I guess. 14.2% swing strike rate, 34% ball rate. This really was falling apart. The command was falling apart before the injury. Maybe it was related to the injury, but I don't think he's like a smash. I don't think this is a situation where you're like, all this guy Bubich has to do is stay healthy and then he'll be great. I think he maybe wasn't quite as good as he showed early on last year, but as a lefty with a deep pitch mix, he's got 5 pitches and good enough command and good enough stuff. I don't know. He's a long ways from Ragans, and you have the same kind of injury questions about him, but I'm fine with him. I rank him probably pretty similarly to where everyone else does. I got him around Sandy Alcantara, Mackenzie Gore right now, so that's that. He's certainly upside there. He's got deception, good deep pitch mix and stuff. I just don't think he's like a world beater. Noah Cameron, 20% K rate last year in the first go at the major leagues on 137 innings, 8% walk rate, actually under 8%. So good debut from him. I think he's going to be more of like I don't know. I can't think of a good left-handed comp, but just someone who, Mitch Keller, Michael Wacha, I guess his teammates, Seth Lugo, like they're not striking out a ton of people. They're having very few like gems, but they're just solid and they piece it together. They throw a bunch of innings and keep the ERA under control. I think that's kind of what you're looking at with Cameron as a lefty. Fastball is a problem. I think he threw 571 4-seamers, only had 97 stuff grade, which is bad in my model, 5.3% swinging strike rate, 41% ball rate. So that's a big problem for him. That said, there's a lot of room to grow. If he can fix that up, he's got a nice curveball, he's got a really nice changeup and a cutter. So again, it's another situation where I don't think he's really standard league. I wouldn't want him in a standard league 12-teamer. I want more upside than that, but I think he can be a guy that throws plenty of innings, takes the ball every 5 days, gives you 5-6 quality innings, ends up with a 3.45 ERA or something like that with a 1.21 whip, like not hurting you anywhere, but he's not going to be a super big help. And I'm going to call it there. You can read about Lugo and Wacha, and you can go check out the Royals prospect preview podcast on the on MLB Data Warehouse. And that's a bunch of players covered. And here I am. So we'll talk to you next time as we get into the new year and we ramp up content and talk and all this stuff for draft season. We will talk to you next time. Peace out.